365 days ago, I finalized setting up this 110-gallon tropical vivarium housing beautiful Oophaga histrionica, otherwise known as poison frogs. And since I finished setting up this tank a year ago, a ton has changed. We have babies. But that's not the only thing that has changed in this enclosure. The plants have grown extremely lush, specifically these bromeliads. At some point, they're gonna have to be removed, but my beautiful female is raising tadpoles right now, and I do not want to interrupt that process. This is what the tank looked like exactly a year ago. As you can tell, the plants are much smaller. However, now, if you look in here, the bromeliads have matured and grown a lot. The moss has taken over that back branch. This Polydiflorum is finally starting to grow a little bit. The Margravia is starting to extend up. The tank overall is doing extremely well. In addition to inflicting some pain by cutting down a lot of the plants and removing a bunch of the moss, it's for a better cause. It will grow back more lush, and it also gives me a whole ton of plants to add to the next vivarium that I have almost completely finished, and that video should be coming out in the next month or so. Not only will I be doing that, but I will be upgrading some of the lighting behind me here to a brand new fixture brought up by Exoterra because they are the sponsor of this video. Let's start getting to cleaning up this tank as well as giving you guys some updates as to what's been going on. I mentioned that I have babies, and not only do I have one, there's number 2, and that right there is number 3. I currently have 3 babies ready to go. They are about 6 months out of water. Of course, they all came out of the water when I was on vacation in Hawaii in December for Christmas as well as New Year's. But somewhere else in this enclosure, I have seen a 4th individual. So I'm hoping to locate him whilst we clean and maybe remove him. The first thing we're going to tackle are these mite packs. They need to go. They've served their purpose, and now it's time to get junked. The kind of biggest elephant in this tank that I want to address, and that is the foam. As you can tell, I did not add enough substrate when I initially set up this tank, so now it is time to rectify that and add some more substrate so some plants can actually grow on the bottom of the tank rather than just up the sides and these massive bromeliads. Now that we've addressed what we need to change, now we actually have to do so. And the first process of that is changing out the leaf litter. So this is great leaf litter. If you look at a jungle, the leaf litter can be up to like 5 or 6 inches thick. So I'm actually going to be keeping this old leaf litter and then just adding new leaf litter on top of it. So there's Orby, as we're calling him. I don't know if he's gonna make it. This is the frog that came out of water about a week ago, if not less. They're not supposed to look like this. So unless he's been eating every single thing he possibly can, I have a feeling he might be showing some signs of bloat. I'll be talking to my vet and seeing if there's really anything I can do. Typically, when bloat hits a frog, especially a froglet, it doesn't bode well for them in the future. So we'll see what we can do. Good luck, buddy. We have mostly cleared out the substrate that I'm going to clear out, and truthfully I'm going to be adding a lot of substrate on this side and not so much on this side because the bromeliads, if they're set in like sopping wet soil, will rot out. And with that, we can add substrate. This substrate mix is something that I'm kind of experimenting with, hence the reason why I didn't include like a full breakdown as to what I'm using. As a bit of an overview for those of you curious, there's cocoa core, peat moss, fir bark chips, a ton of Exoterra substratum, and some fluval charcoal. Now this side suffers from a very similar case. All back there is all just foam, although there is moss growing on it. And then here stays very dry because there's nothing really to retain any moisture. So we're gonna clear this side up by removing all the leaf litter and then add our substrate mix on this side. Like I mentioned, it is going to be a bit thinner on this side just to avoid some rot on those bromeliads, while also maintaining the functionality of keeping that area nice and moist whilst we're misting the enclosure. In turn, this will provide more habitat for microfauna like springtails and such to congregate. Not only that, but it will also provide plenty of extra nutrients for plants to grow in the base there. You guys can see some of the Hydrocotyl Japan kind of struggling in the bottom. That's both a factor of light and minimal substrate, so we'll see how that comes back over the following months. Speaking of springtails and microfauna, I think it's time we add a little bit back to this enclosure. Now that we've added new substrate to the tank, that will definitely increase the odds that these springtails will boom and provide plenty of food for the upcoming offspring that will be morphing out of these bromeliads in the coming months. Moving right along, it is time to add back that old leaf litter, and then once that's all been added, it is time to add the fresh new leaf litter. These are actually imported by the godfather of poison frogs in our hobby, and that is Mark Pepper. They are getting put to good use use in this enclosure. Now that we've given the interior of the tank a makeover, now it's time to redo some lighting. I want to introduce you to the brand new Terra Sky UVB LED by Exoterra. The Terra Sky here offers an incredible spectrum for plant growth, and I can't wait to see all my plants thriving. And not only that, it is fully controllable, so I can turn up the amount of light diodes for the plants versus turn down the UVB diodes, so these frogs don't get too much UV exposure. And instead of burning through 36 watts of energy, which is the equivalent of what I'd be using in a T5, those don't offer very good plant spectrums and not a whole lot of usable light at all. So this bad boy offers the best of both worlds, with controllable UV emission, as well as an incredible light spectrum that the plant uses to grow. Not only that, but you'll be getting 20,000 hours of UVB emission from these, which is equivalent to about 4 years of usage. And just before I throw the light on here and test the UV emissions on this tank, let's take a trip to Colombia to check out what the UV readings of their natural habitat was a few months ago. That's what the canopy looks like under where we measured. And I've had my temperature and humidity gauge sitting over here for a few minutes now. And that's what we're looking like. Yeesh. Whew, what a trip that was. The Colombia video will be coming fairly soon. Today we're talking about the Terra Sky UV LED UVB. That's a long name. I've now installed the light on the screen part of my tank, and now I'm just flicking through the different UVA, UVB, white lights, etc., just to see what kind of changes I can visually see. And as you can very clearly tell, the light diodes ramp up and they ramp down, just as you'd expect. So now that we have kind of an idea of how the remote works for this unit, let's get in some actual measurements with the UVI meter and a tape measure. I did spend about the next 5 to 10 minutes changing the output of the UV diodes to match what I was looking for at peak exposure points in the tank. The highest UVI reading that I was able to get was about 1.1 to 1.2, which is quite similar to what they experience in the wild, and then the rest of the tank is at 0. This allows the frogs the ability to regulate the amount of UV that they're getting exposed to. My favorite part so far is this bad boy right here, the remote control. I can dial in the exact settings I want for my animals, and that is incredible. And if you know what, you just want an incredible plant light, you can dial the UVB all the way down, and then you're just left with an incredible plant LED for your reptiles and your plants. Now, the Terra Sky is not only available in this 12-inch LED bar, it is also available in 2 other form factors, both a compact bulb and then a compact top compatible bulb. That is something that you can regulate with timers, so you can have it go on for, 2 to 4 to 6 hours a day. But if you would like a bit of a deeper dive on these 2 bad boys, as well as fully testing out this, let me know in the comments down below. I'm happy to do a full kind of breakdown of the UVIs at different distances. I did want to say a huge thank you to Exoterra for sponsoring this video. I am stoked to finally have UVB on my frogs. I can't wait to see the difference in their kind of temperaments as well as colors in the coming future. So if you guys are looking for an update on that, let me know in the comments down below. Now that we got some UV bumping on these bad boys, we've upgraded the lighting. Now it is time to chop down some of these plants. I'm going to be doing some strategic chopping and a huge moss trim. It's probably going to make the moss look not great. Let's get right to it. Hello, my lady. The deed has been done. The moss has been trimmed, the plants have been trimmed, but now is the fun time where I can go plant shopping in all my bins in the greenhouses outside and see what plants I want to add to this terrarium that will hopefully flourish. All right, and here's the selection of plants that we're going to be adding to the terrarium. Only adding 1 orchid, Oncidium Twinkle, and then this Nautilus Calyx. This one needs to go in almost right away because it does wilt super, super quickly. We have the Syngonium Elanocarty Road. We have a Camaranthemum, maybe? I'll put the scientific name on screen. We have like a little random just nereid of some kind. This is Philodendron micans. We have some really cool, this is actually Microsorum fern. You guys might know that from the plant, aquarium plant world. And again, I don't know what this is, but if somebody can tell me in the comments, that would be great. Kind of hard to pick up the details of it, but it does look really cool. Let me know what you got. I think it's a Syngonium of some kind as well. That wraps it up, ending with a very similar frame as we started with. The glass is crystal clear. The tank has been trimmed a little bit. And you guys will notice that I didn't plant anything up top here, and that's simply because these misting nozzles don't reach the back enough to get it like soaking wet for an extended period of time. This tank finally gets to mature even more with some new plants, some plants that are cut, and I'm really, really hoping that the moss retakes over that branch there. Otherwise, it is a little bit of an eyesore compared to when it was a bright green moss branch. And that wraps up the 110-gallon vivarium 1-year update. It was definitely time to give this vivarium the TLC that it needed. I'm very happy that I was able to partner with Exoterra in order to sponsor the lighting. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, leave a comment down below at what you think of the kind of redesign and what you're expecting for the build that will be going right next to it here. So from the Frog Gang and I, we'll catch you in the next one. Reptile Room Tour, July 2024? I think so. It's going to be an epic one. Later.